Listen, it gives me great pleasure now to introduce, excuse me, our first customer session. I'm delighted to say that we have Michael Schmidt with us, who's the Director of International IT for ALDI Sud, and also Dr. Torsten Frey, who is a partner and head of SPM at PlanHorizon, as I said, who's our partner for SPM. So, gentlemen, we're really looking forward to hearing more about your story. So over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and welcome to everybody, and welcome to Michael. Thank you for being here. It's great that we can share our roadmap or our experience for ALDI. So we've been working together a very long time. So I think Michael, we met about 2 years ago, April 2020, and we have been through a lot of projects together, long customer journey, and we're not at our end of the customer journey. And yeah, first of all, before we talk a bit through your journey and where you have been, where you've gone, and where you're going, and some of your experiences, I would like you, Michael, to introduce yourself quickly, to tell a bit what's your position, your role at ALDI.
For having me. I was just like thinking of some weeks ago, I've been part of the knowledge experience at Den Haag just as a guest, and now actually in the middle of what's happening. Happy to be here. Yeah, exciting journey. Yeah, my personal journey at ALDI started 4 years ago. So my background is always been on IT service management, and this was structures and stuff like this. And that was actually also why I came to ALDI South. As mentioned, director for international IT. I'm heading the service management office, and we're the ones that provide service management processes, tools, governance to the overall ALDI organization. Obviously, this also includes ServiceNow, as a lot of our processes are based on ServiceNow. But I just saw a question concerning how do we integrate Jira and ServiceNow, which is something that I'm also interested in, because we are also, and my department is also owning our Jira installation. And yeah, I think a lot of the topics that were just mentioned are things that we are also looking in. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and you touched already a lot of points, but let's start at what is your vision with ServiceNow? So how is ServiceNow positioned in your organization? Maybe you can also tell a bit about the transformation, because you have a very large program going on that's really transformative for ALDI. So let's go back at the beginning, let's say 2 years ago. And so when you took the decision, I mean, you had demand management rolled out at ALDI, and then you had a decision to also leverage project management capabilities, project governance in ServiceNow, etc. Can you bring us back to that time, and what were the drivers for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, the initial start of ServiceNow was way before I entered ALDI and started supporting all the IT service management disciplines. The major driver behind it is our big transformation program called AHEAD. So we are actually changing all our custom built solutions applications towards best of breed solutions coming from the market. And due to that fact, we came to the decision as an organization that we have to be on another maturity level with regards to service management. We have to rebuild all the different processes and the service supporting functionality. And yeah, well, you obviously have to consider ServiceNow, and that was the appropriate tool for us to support all those different activities. Besides IT service management, the initial need from business was that they would really want to have one single solution platform for them to bring on in the different requirements. And from the IT perspective, we said, well, there should be something where we're not only collecting those different items, but really consistently handling those things. And then we came up with a demand management approach. In the first step, we really did it as a single solution and did a lot of customizing, which kind of comes back to us at the moment. So we are really building the processes back to standard at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find interesting is, I mean, we have a lot of customers, and very often ServiceNow is driven from the IT organization. The IT organization says, okay, we have all our processes in ServiceNow, and that's project management there. But at ALDI, I think what I really like is that the business decided, okay, we have so many overlaps with IT projects. We don't have IT projects and business projects. We have often a combination of that, and that was quite interesting for me also. The OPMF project, where we included all the national organizations into SPM. Yeah. But let's maybe go through the different steps of our journey, because I think what was a good decision from my perspective is that we did not introduce everything at once. ALDI is a large organization, and ServiceNow has vastly grown since we started. I think I don't know the exact amount of users, but I think we have many more users today than at the beginning. And so we did that step by step. And maybe let us walk through the different projects we conducted, and maybe we start with the first project with ITPPM, where we introduced the governance from ITPPM. Can you say a few words about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, as mentioned before, we initially started with the demand management process, and had also kind of like a limited license at that time. And then we really, understood the value of the platform and the different functionalities in a more integrated approach. And on top, there was the requirement and necessity coming from business, but also from us as an IT organization, to really integrate the different approaches. So we had other approaches using, for example, Clarity or other tools. But the IT and also business wanted to see the different project activities, the planning, all that stuff in one tool. So the initiation of that journey was to have the full scope of functionality licensed, and then start to build with your Lego blocks, so to say. First one was bringing the overall project governance over, so with focus on stage gate processes, very PMI oriented, just to have an overall steering and reporting and all the people in there. That was already a great success, so we could prove that ServiceNow is capable of doing so. And the next one was to, as I mentioned, replace Clarity, so you don't want to have so many tools in place. So we said, well, if we're planning our projects, why not also do the staffing, the capacity planning in there? So we moved the time tracking and the skill management and the overall resource or capacity planning also into ServiceNow. And well, then we kind of like had the full stack in order to prepare and plan our project, but also support the conduction. And with being successful with this, we also were seen on the business side, so to say. So the business organization approached us and said, well, we would like to really have a joint and consistent solution also for our business-only projects. And we've heard that you have something there that's called ServiceNow, and it's quite successful. Couldn't we also use this? So we said, well, not. Well, it's a good tool. We're capable of supporting it. And so we had kind of a variant that's quite close to what we're doing with IT projects, and we brought it up and implemented it, and had an onboarding project that's actually still running in some countries, to setting up ServiceNow, this one supporting platform. And now we are able to not only see business, but also IT projects from a business perspective, and have synergies using that platform.
Yeah, so it were a lot of projects, and I've been involved in some of them. I really remember the Clarity replacement, which was very challenging, because we had many people from IT doing time tracking, and we said, okay, we want to shift over, I think in August 21, if I remember correctly, but that went smoothly. So that was quite interesting. But I found it more interesting to have all these different countries coming together. And I think what was also interesting is not only the platform, but also building this kind of community, because we had people from Australia, from the US, from HOFA, so European organizations, from Germany, etc. And I find it very interesting to get this breadth of people. in the system. But after that, I mean, we got into more stable situations. So we have set up governance around SPM. So you have good governance around the ServiceNow platform in general. But now we have also one stable team that's taking care that SPM evolves at ALDI. Can you say a bit more about the current situation and what is working good and where you want to go, where you want to improve in the future and build on top of what you do now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, well, with the number of functionality, the number of users was raising a lot. We have now, I don't know, I know it in general, we have at least 7,000 that are using the platform and therefore all the different functionalities, which will rise dramatically in the future because we are also bringing in a lot of different other topics. What we found out was also that the different culture we have. I mean, we're a retailer with a long history, and the business is kind of looking different on those topics. They have a different viewing on how to conduct projects. This was quite a challenge to bring this together, to have not only, I mean, functionality is good and it's standard, you just switch it on, but you need to have the people that really are able and willing to do it this way. So that outbalancing of the different cultural approaches and requirements was one of the challenges, which we, I think, managed quite good till now, at least. Yeah, and the other one is what we did was to have like a stable DevOps oriented approach in order to have like a continuous development and continuous involvement of the different activities, and yeah, in some ways also to block a bit of overwhelming customization requirements reaching out to us, to keep it to the standard, but having also the ability to to be capable to support the different user groups.
Yeah, I think that was just a question. What was the biggest challenge? And I also found that was quite of a challenge finding the right approach. When we first talked with the business, I know we had a lot of discussions and we agreed on a high level design also. So we talked openly about what are the borders, because we did not want to build two systems, one for the business and one for IT. And on the other hand, there were differences, of course, in the processes. So we had to support them in a way that they are also reflected in the system. And it was quite interesting. And as you mentioned, there are completely different approaches. So IT is more focused towards execution also, and in the business, decision making is also completely different. Yeah, so they all use a demand, but on the IT side, the demand is process. You have a lot of supporting functions involved. You have resource management involved. You have vendor management involved, risk management, etc., all assessing the demand. And the business side, it's more really the strategic lens where you have strategies and goals, and you have directors deciding which projects to select and which ones not. And that was quite interesting to have that on the same platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, looking ahead, I mean, if you look at the strategic part on the one hand, and if you look on the execution side on the other hand, I think we still have a way to go. Maybe you can say something about that. You mentioned Jira. You're responsible for Jira. You're responsible for ServiceNow. So what is the current situation, and how do you see the overlap between the two systems?
Yeah, well, at the moment, what we face is that a lot of our agile teams are kind of like very resistant in using Jira. So that we say we need to have a deeper integration, so that the more strategic and the planning and that organizational layer is something where we see the absolute advantage in using ServiceNow. Yeah, when it comes to overall planning and the portfolio capacity, all that different stuff. When we're going down to real operational level where the developers are working, well, we have actually two options. Yeah, and one option is to have a ServiceNow only approach, which we are really heading to, and we have a current big opportunity to prove that this is really working well. On the other hand, we have to integrate Jira on that aspect. And On top, we also have the requirement to do this for projects as well. The planning console has its restrictions in the number of tasks that you are capable to handle. And then sometimes we have, I don't know, projects when you think of new stores or new regions, which are totally linked and automated, that are coming into 10,000s of tasks. And that management is easier to be handled either within Microsoft tools or Jira, for example. And there's also the request or the challenge that we face is to integrate this, to have a consistency in the information and data flow, to be able to report on the one hand to the sponsors and stakeholders, on the other hand, find suitable tools to really support the acting project members. Yeah. And not mentioning DevOps and different integrations or cloud. So there's a lot of topics that we're currently handling that are with regards to tool integration. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. We also introduced DevOps, and it was well received. But it's really this challenge deciding: do we more integrate and let people work in different systems, or do we try to get everyone onto the tool? And I think that's really a journey, and that will still be a long journey for the future.
Yeah, definitely.
So getting to the end of our discussion, maybe can you say a few final comments about what would you recommend to organizations that are at the beginning of their journey? So what are your lessons learned from the past 2 years?
Yeah, I would say probably also looking back that when you start to have quite an ambitious target picture where you would like to head to, which is not limited to this or next year, but maybe to the next 3 to 5 years. Try to estimate or to foresee what your organization is heading to. Yeah, but then bring it down to a realistic roadmap so that you can then approach the journey to that target picture step by step and be open to changes, because changes will happen. The next thing is, well, obviously have a good partner, somebody who has experience in doing so. Yeah, not only, I don't know, buying something from the shelf and say, well, now I just install it and then things will happen and everything will be fine. You need an appropriate partner that is not only supporting you from functional, but also processual organizational side.
And change management.
Yeah, change management is something we probably have a lot of potential within us. Let's keep it that way. Yeah. And yeah, I think it is also look for synergies, not only from functional or data, but also processual and organizational, as we've seen with the business. So it was kind of like a low-hanging fruit to provide them demand and project management. And yes, try to maximize the value that you can get from the platform by looking for such opportunities to leverage synergies and yeah, other integrational options.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. It was a great talk with you, and yeah, I'm looking forward to really also we're introducing Roadmap Planner right now, so I'm looking forward how that will work in the organization. So we have a lot ahead, but it's always fun because I think we're first going to the brass, making sure that people adapt what is there, and then we move to the next step. And I think that's the right way. Thank you very much. And yeah, I think I don't know who to hand it over now. So we are now heading into the panel discussion.
Yeah, back to me. Thanks, thanks, Dawson, and thanks. Really appreciate that, Michael. It was we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us all here today. I think it's a great story, and I think there's a lot of really key advice that you talked about there. Certainly, it's elicited a number of questions on the chat, which I've no doubt we will try and get to when we get to the Q&A at the end. But if not, we'll respond to the people who logged those chat questions. So thank you again, gentlemen.